All right. Welcome everybody. Transformation Tuesday once again. Yes, my name is Judy Matejek, Life Master Consultant and award-winning paradigm shifter. We're we're a dedicated community dedicated to shifting and uplifting the planet.
Mm.
And we've been coming together since March of 2020, every Tuesday, with different topics. And I'd like to take the temperature of what's going on out there. And okay, now who do I know that would be so perfect for our topic? And this month in August of 2025, we're going to be talking about new beginnings. And when I was thinking about this, school's starting, we've had some in at the level of circumstance. In fact, when we what 4 weeks ago in the state of Texas, there were floods and there were first responders rush there were and everything, and now school's starting with new beginnings and new beginnings for our communities here who have lost quite a few, people. And important, we were going through this dark night of the soul, and the first thing, and I'm going to just take a deep breath in here, and knowing that we have the opportunity to turn our dark night experience into a new beginning, but only if we use it well. So using this dark night experience well means so many things, but it means that we learn from our experience so that in future circumstances we can recognize when life is signaling for us to get back on course. Not cool, Jamie. It's like, oh, right, we're getting. So using that experience well means learning to see the true meaning of the experience. Now, I love this acronym for TRUE: think, release, use, and expect. Think, release, use, and expect in a way that moves up the ladder to our own becoming. So it's a process, isn't it? And we're going to learn more and more about how to use experience for you to grow into that higher version of yourself. Because as our mentor says, one of mine, the curriculum, the content of your life, no matter what you're going through or whatever it is, it's curriculum for your growth and evolution. So I am so thrilled to introduce everybody to my colleague and my friend, Jamie Peer from Rock Creek Retreat Center in south of Lincoln, Nebraska. Is that right?
Yep, actually just north of Lincoln, but yes, Rock Creek
Yeah.
Retreat. Yep, that's where I live.
There you go. And Jamie Pierce she's dedicated to helping people design lives of purpose, balance, and joy. Now, Jamie specializes in supporting military women, especially mothers serving in the military, as they navigate the unique challenges of balancing very demanding careers with personal and family lives. Boy, right there, boom. That to me says strength and courage. So Jamie proudly wore the uniform for 24 years. 23 years, from 1996 to 2019, as an active duty Army officer. And she's also the wife of Mark, a fellow service member who served for 23 years on active duty. So throughout their 22 years of marriage, Jamie and Mark worked to balance the demands of dual military careers with raising their 3 daughters, often enduring large periods of separation. So in total, They experienced 7 years of geographical separation due to military requirements, which profoundly tested their resilience as a family. We're going to have some good talks here. So, Jamie's own experiences, including a year-long deployment to Afghanistan, and the emotional toll of high expectations and burnout, gave her a deep understanding of the unique challenges faced by military women and mothers. So, through a journey of self discovery and personal transformation, Jamie has cultivated a passion for helping others turn their challenges into opportunities for growth. Perfect. So, Jamie's mission is to empower military women and mothers to unlock their potential, overcome obstacles, and create lives that are not only successful, but deeply fulfilling, joyful, and aligned with their soul's purpose. This is going to be really good. Fun. So come on in here, Jamie. Tell us a little bit about that and perhaps some of the challenges and, yeah, who you
Yeah.
are. I so appreciate you and everything that you've done and are doing. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I can say now it is my pleasure to have gone through everything I've gone through to get to this place today. But yes, as you mentioned, you know, married right at the beginning of a military career, and not just at any time in the lifespan of the military. This is 2002, 2003. I got married in 2002. We had our first child in 2003. And when you think back to what was going on in the military and with the world, we had the global war on terrorism just kicking off. And in fact, I remember my last year of college, September 11th, 2001. Um, I was in my senior year as an ROTC cadet, and up until this point, um, I had served from 1996 until then, and it was the military was kind of a 9 to 5 job. Yes, there were people that were going to austere locations, but on a very limited basis, very small units. You think special forces and things like that, but for the most part, people went to work, they went home. They went to work, they went home. And they could be stationed overseas, but it was essentially the same thing. So what I thought I was getting myself into and what I actually got myself into after 9/11 were two completely different worlds. And I was actually on maternity leave February, March of 2003. And we uh, went into Iraq again. After having already gone into Afghanistan, we were going into Iraq. So that whole surge and everything, I've got a brand new baby. My husband's getting ready to commission. I'm already commissioned as an officer. And I will just tell you that those first 5 years were an absolute whirlwind of, you know, thinking I was getting ready to deploy, orders being canceled, getting other units out the door to deploy, working extremely late nights, having to stick my oldest daughter in overnight daycare sometimes because my husband was off at a military school. The work had to get done. I mean, this was literally life and death stuff that we were dealing with, and we had to get forces out the door as quickly as possible. And I had a newborn. And the rules for officers are a little bit different than for our enlisted folks in that there really wasn't a chat. They call it chapters. It's of a regulation. This chapter governs mothers and if they can get out. And for officers, you made a commitment, and so the expectation is that you would figure it out. And so I had to figure it out with a combination of my in-laws who were 2 hours away from the military base we were stationed at. Sometimes, like if our kids got sick, my mother-in-law would have to come stay with us so that I could still go to work. like I said, I had the overnight daycare situation, and there were too many nights. It wasn't all the time, but any night you got to leave your child overnight at a babysitter, it's just not ideal. Um, so it was really very, very trying time, and especially on a new marriage. So we had our second daughter in 2005. I don't even think she was just a year old, a year and a few months when my husband had to deploy to Iraq, Mosul, Iraq, which if for those that know, during that time frame, Mosul, Iraq was probably one of the most dangerous locations you could be assigned. And his job was to go up and down the highways looking for roadside bombs, not trying to avoid them, but trying to find them so that they could call in, the explosive ordnance disposal teams and have those bombs deactivated. And this was before Skype was really a thing or Zoom was really a thing. And I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. My husband's literally going and looking for things that blow people up. I can't talk to him very frequently. I had a full-time job on active duty. Um, it was a literal nightmare. And that was just my first 5 years. So, schools, another military school happened. This time, my oldest daughter's going into kindergarten, and my husband had gotten back from his deployment. He went to a new duty station. He needed some time with the kids. So he took him for a few months, and then I had to go to a different school. He was in Missouri. I'm in South Carolina. And I find out that when I graduate from my course, I'm going to be deploying to Afghanistan. So, of course, I want the girls with me because these are my last few months with them before I leave. And then before that first year of kindergarten was over, we're moving to the duty station where I'm going to deploy from. And so our oldest daughter went to 3 different kindergartens in 3 different states in one school year. And at the time, I mean, that sounds crazy to me now, and that sounds crazy to a lot of people. Like, how could you do that? But that was very typical for military families at that time. The reason they had overnight daycare is because it was more typical for military families to need overnight daycare. So when you're in a world where everybody's just going to and fro and getting ready to go or come back, or you got to be at work, you don't really know any better, and you don't really think about it. You just have to go. So fast forward, gratefully, my husband and I, after I got back from deployment, didn't have any significant separations until 2016. He ends up going to Korea for a year. I stay back with the girls and hold down the fort again. This time I have kids that are in middle school and late elementary school, and a brand new baby. We had our third daughter during this time. So, anyways, when he got back from Korea, I was appointed as the professor of military science for an Army ROTC program at the University of Nebraska, which meant I was in charge of this program at a Big Ten school, which is, pretty, it was I appreciated that they selected me. It felt really good, except the fact that I had to cart my kids away from their dad one more time. And when he got back from Korea, he had to fulfill one more year at the duty station that we were located before he could move up to be with us. And when I say up, he was in Kansas, we were in Nebraska. So it was about a 3-hour difference, but it wasn't commutable. And so we would really only see him on the weekends. And at this point, our oldest daughter is a freshman in high school. Our middle daughter is going into middle school, and we have a 3-4-year-old. So again, a very difficult time to be moving kids. The friends that they had made, they had to start over again. And this time we weren't moving to a military base with other kids that understood this lifestyle and had probably gone through the same thing very recently. We were moving to Lincoln, Nebraska, which is a very well-established town. It's a really big, small town, and that feels like everybody knows everybody. People grew up together, they went to high school together, their kids know each other, and my kids were the outsiders. And frankly, I was an outsider. I was a military woman on a college campus, university. And think about military and academia and how different those worlds are. And then to be a woman in charge of a group of men, in charge of college students. And it was, when they say it's lonely at the top, try being a woman at the top of that type of a situation. Um, and so I didn't have any friends, not one person that I could reach out to go to coffee or lunch with. We tried to get established in a church, and they meant very well, but I just felt like the only thing they really wanted from me was to uh, help run the daycare on the weekends, because I had kids in the daycare. And I'm like, look, my life is so stressful during the week. I literally just want to sit in church and melt into the seat. I just want to feel the praise music, and I just want to be fed and loved. I don't want any more demands on my time. And I just kept getting these reminders like, hey, it's your turn to do daycare. It's your turn to do daycare. I was like, wow. So even church didn't feel like a place that I could retreat to, right? So all that to say, 2017 to 2018, that first year was just so incredibly challenging. The emotional toll it was taking on my family, the seventh year of geographical separation with my husband, lonely at the top, trying to hang physically with people less than half my age. I mean, I was 43 at this point, and I've got 18-year-olds I'm trying to run with and do CrossFit type exercises with. I mean, I was breaking myself off all the time. I'm like, can we just do yoga today? No, we don't do yoga in the military, so, or not very often. So, anyways, that feeling of constriction, that feeling of isolation and loneliness really, really started to take a toll on my mental health. And frankly, I did end up going to a psychiatrist. I'm like, well, I can't quit my job. I'm in this dream job and all this responsibilities on my shoulders. I got to stay engaged as a mom, but I don't want to get out of bed. And so going to the psychiatrist and seeing what she could give me to help take the edge off my life is why I went in. And Judy, I just got to tell you, there was just one moment as I'm at the psychiatrist's office. We were on the second floor, and I was looking out the window onto like a bike path trail. Lincoln has just got a really amazing network of bike trails all across the city. It's really great. But I saw a dad walking his little boy to school. It was that time of day. It was early in the morning, that time of day, and little kid's got his little backpack on, and it's October. The leaves are falling. They're on the path, and they're just taking a leisurely stroll to school. And I looked outside, and the sun was shining. It was just beautiful, and I was like, I bet if I could be doing that with my little girl, I wouldn't need to be in here right now, trying to take the edge off my life. And it was at that point that the discontent that of the life I had created, I wasn't really thinking in these terms yet, but I basically had painted myself into a corner where I couldn't do that, even if I wanted to, without taking leave or something like that. But the responsibility was just far too great. So it was several months later. I was having a conversation with my husband. He was up visiting his family. And I was like, sweetheart, I just don't think I can do this anymore. And it was around this time that I realized that I was in the retirement eligibility window. Like, it was coming up where I was almost to 20, I was almost to 19 years, but not quite. And I was like, but I don't know what I want to do when I'm done with this. And he said, my husband, who is an Army engineer, very, very practical, logical guy, right? sometimes I say glass half empty because he's always noticing, what needs to be fixed, which I appreciate. But so when he said this, it was a shock. I said, "What do you think I should do?" And he's like, "I think you'd be an amazing life coach." And I was like, "What did you just say?" And he said, "I think you'd be a great life coach. Just think about all the people in the military that have always come to your door. Your office is like a revolving door, people coming to you with their problems, their challenges, their struggles, and you're always able to help them. And they always leave feeling better. And then they come back to you and tell you about how great your advice was and blah, blah, blah. Right." But I was just like, I don't know the first thing about that. I don't know how to be a business person. I don't know how to do any of that kind of stuff. Um, but you know how it goes. Like that week, I get an email from Brave Thinking Institute, and it's like, "Have you ever thought about being a life coach?" And I'm like, "They're listening to us. They're listening to us." But I mean, I just thought about it earlier that week. So I made the call and I signed up. And at the end of that strategy session, which I know you're familiar with, I I felt a light come on at the end of a very dark tunnel. And you talk about new beginnings. I mean, I was like, if they'll help me and basically give me a step-by-step system, because the military, all the trainings, all the things that you have to go through, they pay for it, they tell you when you're going to go, they ship you there, like you don't really have a choice. And I was like, if I could get a step-by-step way to do this and the support to pull it off, I think I could do this. And so I signed up, and
Yeah.
so
Well,
I'll just
I wanted, that's great. I want to talk about that in a little bit, but I wanted to ask you now, if you look back, um, that like you have your experience, even though it was like it kicked in, probably of starting over multiple times
yes.
and doing a kickstart multiple times. So, what was that within you that was that, yeah, why was it important for you to keep things going? Where was your why back then? Because I really believe that our why has been with us from a long, long time ago up until now, what we're doing now and all that other fun stuff. But if you went back there, um, you know, the interesting thing for me is I grew up in this small town and went to the same school forever and ever and everything else. And I always looked at, I wasn't until I was an adult that I met people who were in the military
Mhm.
and they moved and they got to see and all this. And I was so jealous because they restarted all the time. And I was feeling on this side stuck. So it's this matter of perception of like, your life looks so glorious. Mine is boring. I knew what I was going to be doing, like, okay, it's expectations. So where was it? And also, Ray, I would love to have you talk about um, raising three daughters as a mom, and what are some of the strengths they got from you that
Yeah.
you're, yeah, that's where I really, and then I want to talk about what you're doing now today, because as I'm doing the math, your daughters are like in their 20s now, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
My oldest daughter, the one that went to three different kindergartens, she's 22. She lives out in Denver, and she's going to veterinary technician school, and she's a roller derby queen, which yeah, I'm living vicariously through her with that. I have a 20-year-old daughter who is here in Lincoln, very involved with the youth group at her church. She's actually a youth leader and gets to, she sings in the praise band and she's got a beautiful voice. And she's actually getting to share a message here in a couple weeks at church, like during the main service. So I'm kind of living vicariously through her with that. And then our youngest daughter is now going to be 12 and she's going into seventh grade. And she's very involved in volleyball, which I loved volleyball as a kid. So I'm living vicariously through her with that. So all of my kids are doing like aspects of my dream that I had as a kid. And, I got to do to a certain extent, but not to the fullness that they're getting to do it. But as far as like the new beginnings, well, the strength, I guess, is one of the things that kept me going through all of the hardship. I mean, trust me when I say there were many times I wanted to quit,
Ah.
but it's not that easy. It's not that easy. You can't just not show up. You can't call the boss and be like, I'm done.
Oh, wow.
No,
Yeah.
it's a whole paperwork process and an approval process, and they can say no, right? So knowing that, it's just like, is it even worth it to try to get out at this point? And then in a couple days, I'd feel better. But really, what happened more often than not, Judy, would be that on a day where I was feeling particularly low, like I just want to call it quits, some young woman in the military would come to me for advice on something that was extremely challenging, marriage issues, career issues, health issues, whatever. And because of that experience that you talked about, I was able to help them navigate that and make a better decision than they could have on their own. And there's one story in particular that, as a mom and as a woman, I think I was the only person that could have done this in this soldier's life. Soldier, her husband had deployed, and she was pregnant because she didn't go because she was pregnant, and way too early. I think it was around 27 weeks. She went into labor early, and she didn't have family in the area. Her husband's deployed. I got the call as her commander. So I got the call because I was her commander. Otherwise, I wouldn't have ever known about this. And I went up to the hospital, and I was able to go into her room and hold her hand and touch her, like even just like stroking her hair as she was grieving the loss of her baby who was with her, but wasn't going to make it. The hospital didn't have the very fancy equipment that could have possibly saved it. Like they didn't have it, and there wasn't a way to medevac her out, in time. So I really just stood there beside her bed, held her hand, mourned with her, treated her like a daughter because I knew she wanted her mom. And I'm like, a guy couldn't have done that. It wouldn't have been appropriate. Number one, to hold her hand and stroke her hair. He wouldn't have understood the gravity of the situation the way that I could as a woman who had, had two children inside of me. Um, so on that day, I knew that was why I was there at that time. And then other things happened later on where, the things that I had gone through were able to help other women in the military. So my kids got strength from seeing their mom get up and do what she was passionate about every day. The women in my unit got to see my strength and resolve as a woman leader, wanting to be a great example for them and be there for them. Um, and all of that was in spite of the many challenges I have already shared with you. So,
Oh, that is such a beautiful story. What a gift you are. What a gift. What a gift. Yes, I love and it's all like going, the whole tool bell that we about this whole notice what you're noticing, like right in the middle of it, like I don't know if I can do this. It's like emotional. I think this whole emotional part of it, where you suit up and show up, and then you go through to the other side and find that you're so strong, and then your experience, strength, and hope will bring you this courage to stand with another, in your case, in women, you know? What a blessing. Whew. And then I'm looking at all these tools that are up on my wall, like, oh, what am I using today? It's the subtitle of Notice What You're Noticing is Staying Awake at the Helm.
mm,
Oh, okay, I'm here. Stay awake. Do I run from it or do I walk toward it?
Mhm.
Sometimes, like, at least for me, one of my paradigms is like, oh, I'm running from that one. And then it's too big for me. Over in the last couple of weeks, I led a hike up here to this mountain up here where we spread the ashes of one of my longtime friends who was a Vietnam vet.
Mm.
And every part of me wanted to run away from that
Mm.
because it was emotions, right?
Yes.
And and then I'm like, no, wait a minute. Why don't I repattern that like we learn how to do? Repattern, like, what if instead of running away from, I walk towards serenity and peace, towards something, and not run towards it, but walk gently.
Mhm. Yeah.
And each step, there were tears, there were emotions, but each step, and then on the other side of it, I felt at peace.
Beautiful.
So that brings us to like, boy, man, what you're doing now. I just like your rock creek retreat center because now you are out of the military, right?
Yep.
And what is that calling that you had to start your center? And what are you doing there? Now I was looking at some videos and like, wow. In other words, your drive is still there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me more.
Well, yeah, so, I shared that I do the life coaching thing, but one of the journeys that I went on uh, as my military career came to a close, in addition to working with, BTI, was I knew that, or I felt, our intuition. I felt that traditional Western medicine was not going to be the thing that would help me heal from many things that I experienced that I haven't even mentioned. And I just started exploring uh, different metaphysical, natural, holistic type modalities and practitioners. And I kind of went on like a 2-year journey right after I got out of the military. And I worked with a shaman. She introduced me to things like breath work and Reiki and connecting with nature. Um, I've done cranial sacral massage now. I mean, it's just like sound therapy, all these things, right? And in addition to that, what I would notice when I was outside, like if I could witness a beautiful sunrise or a beautiful sunset, or if I could work with my hands outside doing yard work, um, I really like burning things, like, scrub, brush from, leaves, branches come down, and I would make fires. And I just got so much release and relief and groundedness from those experiences. And so and I did work with horses. I got to go to a veterans retreat out in Ohio to work with horses and see how horses can help us process emotions and transmute, anger into peace and those kinds of things. And so we landed on this acreage. That's a whole serendipitous synchronicity story. I'll share another time. But I all of a sudden found myself in stewarding this land and thinking about how can I use this land to hold space for other people, other veterans, other women, other whoever, to connect with that deep sense of peace and healing and everything else. And so it was after I did the equine, like immediately after I did my own equine therapy program in Ohio, I came back. I filed for another LLC. I bought a sign called Rock Creek Retreat. I made my logo on Canva and I did all the things. And by the end of May, I had Rock Creek Retreat Center on the books, signed by the road, like, and putting that sign in the road. It's a beautiful metal sign. It's, concreted in. I was like, I'm not putting a little paper sign that I could take down or blow away. I'm concreting this thing in. And so every day I drive by that, I'm like, I'm doing this thing. And in fact, going back to how lonely I felt at the top, when I was a woman in the military, that was last few years, I deeply, deeply desired for connection with other women in a safe space where I could just be honest about where I was and have support, not a ton of advice, just support and care. And so this past Saturday, we had another women's circle. I don't run them. I opened the space up for a lady who does this, regularly. But again, deep connection with women. They were like, this place is amazing. I feel so good. I haven't felt this grounded and this peaceful in so long. And that just warms my heart because that was the vision. The vision is that people would have a place where they could come. And we've had sound therapy out here, we've had breath work out here, um, yoga, you name it, basically any kind of metaphysical, holistic, or natural thing. Herbalists have come out and made teas and products, to share with people. It absolutely lights me up to be able to provide that because it was so transformative for me. So that's the intent behind Rat Creek Retreat Center and why I love it.
Oh my gosh, that's like full circle, isn't it? You know, that's when we talk about like this dark night of the soul. It's like grrr, boom, and now you are like in a totally whole new life. Thank you so much for doing that. And I want to ask you one more question, and I know both of us are going to be doing another thing in a couple minutes, but I wanted to ask you, and I asked this at the end of each one of that, and I think I want to change it up for you. It's like let's say that we're driving out in the country and we see that Rock Creek Retreat Center sign and your picture's on it or your essence is there, right? What is it, the message that you would love to have people, women, people, women, whatever that are coming out there? What is a message that you would love to have them leave with as they feel that essence of who you are right now and are becoming and the space? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me think about this for just a few seconds. As you know, we live at the level of fact, right? The level of fact, we live in a very chaotic, divisive, um, what's the word? Distracting. I was distracted. I couldn't even think of the word. Distracting world. And it causes us to really scatter our energy in a million directions. We get pulled in a million directions, and we just feel like there's nowhere we can go to get away from it all. And what I really want people to know and feel, you know, just by virtue of the fact that this place exists and that they can come here, is that there is a place where you can come back to yourself, reconnect with nature, reconnect with other like-hearted people who want the same thing. And you can just push the world out for however long you're here and really just be be present, be loved, be the nature that you are in nature, and really feel that beautiful divine connection that we all have all the time when we remember that it's always there. But if you need to break away from your life to go somewhere where you can just know that that's the intent and that you will experience that, that's Rock Creek Retreat. So,
Oh, wow. Well, let's put a blessing. If we're going to
mhm.
put a blessing on you and all of the work that you're doing and your family and all the work that because you are strong and courageous, it's generational going down and generations to come. So I'm going to get some energy going here. And all you need to do is to reach, all you, we would love to have you do is to receive. Ah, we're sending energy. There you go. Thank you so much for who you are and who you are being and becoming. And it's been such a pleasure.
Yeah. Well, I want to say thank you to you, Judy. You are a bright light in this world, and I have always enjoyed and been inspired by your energy. And, I'm grateful that we got an opportunity to connect even deeper here recently. And I'm just looking forward to being on this journey with you from here on out. So thank you so much for seeing me and reaching out to me. This was an honor. I really, really appreciate it. So
I
thank you.
love it. My pleasure. What a great way to start this month of August on new beginnings, right? Thank you so much, Jamie.
You're welcome. See you later.